Hey, yeah, what's up? The disciple martial occurrence reign back up in this anti-Illuminati all day, anti-telepathy all day, anti-America all day, and everybody with them, yo. So, um, this video gonna be about. It's a kind of a sub-genre, if you will, of my campaign of 40 states allowing adults to have sex with children. It's kind of a sub-genre. I'm gonna have sub-genres along with this campaign, and this is one of them. And in this subgenre video, we're going to be talking about, specifically, I'm going to hit on, just for an example, this is going to be one state that I know for sure, and it's going to be used as an example in the state of North Carolina, my home state. If you may have not known this law. This is a law, guys. It's real laws in America. If you are in the state of North Carolina, both under the age of consent, you both can be charged for you being in the person of being with someone under the age of consent. Both of you would be in the person of being with someone under the consent. So, in other words, because what people like to do, and I'm just being 100 about it, what people like to do when you have two children that's been playing around sexually, they want to lock up the older one, but not lock up the younger one. That's what they want to do. They want to look at the older one like you should have been more responsible. Not looking at the fact that that is a child too. Doesn't have a man's brain, by the way. That's what that means when I say child. When I say child, you know what that means? Especially technically and legally, they don't have the brain, therefore the thoughts of a man. And you can't hold them responsible to have the thoughts of a man. But what this American community and government likes to do is, if you have two children, what they want to do is hold liable the older child. But the laws in North Carolina, I want you guys to know this, because some of you guys have done stuff. You have. And you walk around with guilt. You walk around with shame. You let the community put shame on you. You let the government put shame on you. You even let certain people in your family put shame on you about things that you did as a child. Now, here's the thing. If you both were children, first of all, you shouldn't fault yourself as a child. You was a child yourself. Don't let nobody act like you was an adult. You wasn't. And no matter how mature you was, no matter how smart you was, at the end of the day, you still would make childish decisions. Okay? That's the first thing you need to know. Secondly, what you need to know is by law, if you had two children in North Carolina that were under the age of consent, meaning in the age of consent in North Carolina is 16. So if you have two children under the age of 16, both of them are, then that means that they're both literally, they both could be charged in North Carolina. Which means if one was older and one was younger, it doesn't matter the age gap. If they both are under the age of consent, then they both could be, the younger could be charged for being with the older, because that still is a child, and that child would be in the person of being with someone under the age of consent. So, in other words, you in the state of North Carolina, I'm just using my state because I can't go through all of them, and so why not use home? You can't lock up two children. You can't lock up the older child and say, well, we're gonna persecute you. We're gonna make you pay. No, by law, if you had two children under the age of consent, I know you might not like it. Who likes children messing around sexually anyway? No one says, that's okay though. I'll go for that. Just not that. No one cares if children are messing around. No one likes children messing around, period. There's nobody out there saying, well, I don't like two cousins messing around, but those two, yeah, that turns me on. Anybody saying any kind of children stuff turns them on? Anybody's feeling happy about any child sexual activity? But see, what I see in this culture, y'all angry about certain child activity, but you're not. But what are you concerning the other sexual child activity? But the bottom line is, if there's two children, they both were under the age of consent, you cannot, by law, hold the other one, the older one, accountable. You can't lock them up. So if you have a 15-year-old, let's just say that's right under the age of consent. You have a 15-year-old and they're with a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old. Even though that's older, you still can't lock them up because they're both under the age of consent. I'm showing you the law now. So again, if you have a 15-year-old with a even 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old, whatever age you want to pick, you still can't hold the 15-year-old responsible legally because they're both under the age of consent. So if you have, in other words, a 15-year-old boy with an 8-year-old girl or a 7-year-old girl, you can't lock up, even if you feel like the boy, because in these cases, a lot of these sex cases, boys usually are, it's more of a sexist thing, like really with trying to hold boys more accountable, because you would think, I guess, they would be more aggressive in the situation. But the bottom line is, and as far as the laws go, she could be, if that 8-year-old can be held accountable, here's the punchline. The 8-year-old can be held accountable for being with the 15-year-old because they both are under the age of consent. So the 8-year-old girl could get a charge, per se, for being with someone that's under the age of consent, even though it's 15. I'm telling you, I'm showing you your own laws. So I'm going to say that again. If an 8-year-old girl has sex or any sexual activity with even a 15, 14, 13-year-old boy, even though he may be older, she still can get locked up because he's under the age of consent. So in a case like that, you have to throw it totally out because both are under the age of consent. You can't, legally, you can't do it. So I'm just letting you know your own laws, your own perspectives that your lawmen have made. That's for all you witch hunters that, and I have to say this for people that may have been a little bit older than someone that you have been with when you was a kid, and you may be feeling some kind of way about it. But think about this. First of all, they can't hold you. First of all, most cases it's consensual, first of all. Second of all, like I said, they can't hold you legally to legal responsibility because you also was under the age of consent. Even if the relationship was ongoing, let's just say you and a girl were, okay, maybe she was 8, 9, 10, and maybe you was 13, 14, and then you hit 16. You still are not if I was defending you, I would say you still are not liable because you both engaged each other when you were legally under the age of the sex of consent. So she already can get a charge for being with you from the beginning part, from the beginning when y'all initially started. The fact that she can get a charge and you can get a charge from the beginning, you can't take that boy and hold him responsible for the latter, because they're already both legally they both can be legally prosecuted because of the initial ages they both were, which was under the age of consent. So you can't say, well, let's look at him at this age with this person. In the example or in the state that they had an ongoing relationship, and let's prosecute at this latter age. You can't do that, because in all actuality, they both were already locked up from the initial ages, which were under the age of consent. So in other words, she would already be locked up before, technically, legally speaking, before he even got to that age. She would already be locked up, which means you got to go back to the beginning and hold that part. If it's all within the same statutes of limitations, you got to look at all of it. So when you look at all of it, there's already 2 charges, both under the age of consent. 2 charges, so therefore there's nothing else. There's nothing else there legally, because now the person is taking the charge right there at the ages that they were, both being under the ages of consent, which means nothing else would be there. There's a void a void there, if you will, based on that, because how can you now charge someone how can you charge someone from the beginning and then that's a drop? That's like saying, how can that person then be back there? You can't do it. It throws it out. It throws it out because that charge causes an absence, I would say. In other words, when you look at the whole relationship of this boy and girl, in either way it goes, you can't actually think that you're going to charge the 15-year-old boy or the 16-year-old boy when they had an ongoing relationship before they both were able to consent to sex, which means she would be also liable from the beginning. So basically, she wouldn't make it to the ladder because of the beginning, basically. And that's where sharpness and laser sharp perspective comes in. She wouldn't have made it to the beginning, to the end of the last age they were, if she's charged on the beginning, and if he's charged on the beginning. So because they're both under the age of consent, both legally able to be prosecuted, then you have to throw it out. You have to. Because, and the bottom line is they're both under the age of consent. She could be charged and he could be charged. So right there is the beginning and the nucleus of the situation, which shows the age of the person being under consent, which is definitely young, definitely not adult, which shows it's not predatory by nature. And showing also, in a case, let's say in a case it was with consent, totally thrown out. If the girl was pursuing the boy as well sexually, then that's totally thrown out. Because whether you like it or not, she had the mindset also of desire for the older boy. And obviously if she's pursuing him, then she's obviously giving consent. So because I've been in a situation where I was under the age of consent, and I was with me and someone else was under the age of consent. She's slightly younger than I am, but she comes to a door and knock on the door, and I open the door, and she's feeling my penis. So if you open the door and someone's feeling your penis, you're both under the age of consent. That is a person, even if she's, no matter how younger she is, she's showing consent. So to me, that obviously shows that shows in the mindset, that shows the mindset of the child, both for the children, and that child, particularly that's younger. So, that's, when you see someone that shows the mindset of that child. Okay. If that child is pursuing the older to the point where she's groping his penis when he opens a door, not asking, that happened in my case, not asking the person to, but the person is, she knocks on the door, open the door, she's groping your, now we, like I said, we're both under the age of consent. So I'm not some old guy, you know what I'm saying? But it shows you how, some people, in that case, some people would still say, well, I don't agree with that. But that younger female came and groped me, came and felt my penis. So it shows the age, it shows consent, and we both under the age of consent. We can't charge either in that situation because she's obviously showing consent by grabbing this man's penis. Well, not man, in my case, boy. And it shows her mindset. She's not no baby. And people like to think like that about the girl for some reason. They don't think like that about the boy, but they like to think about that about the girl. But if she's knocking on the door and then grabbing your penis, then what does that tell you? It tells you what age she was. It tells you what mindset she had. Both important, age and her individual mindsets towards sex. And it shows the innocence of the older boy. And, quite frankly, it shows the girl is initiating sex. And they're both under the age of consent. You can't, I know you want to be sexist, but in that case, when a situation like that, you have to understand the nature and you're not going to be able to get the satisfaction of having a sexist verdict in this situation. Okay. So I just wanted to make this video to make sure you guys understood that, because I didn't know it. If two kids are under the age of consent, please don't try to badger and harm the older, because that could be considered age discrimination. At a point where both are under the age of consent, you choose to pick and play with the older, that's age discrimination. They're both under the age of consent. They're both children. You chose to discriminate age-wise with the older. Yeah. That's age discrimination, because both are children. You just look at older as something in your own mind to be more responsible. Not really knowing the child, not considering the child's own makeup and environment. You just hear older and you just discriminate, basically. But if they both were children, like I said, in this case, where there's two children, both under the age of consent, you can't look at the older, but I guarantee you most Americans will. If you have two children that's under the age of consent, you're going to look at the older one like something's wrong with them. But they both children, though. You don't hold them responsible to drive cars. You don't hold them responsible to go hold jobs. You don't hold them responsible to go get an apartment. They can't get an apartment. You don't hold them responsible. I'm talking about children here. I'm not talking about adults. I'm talking about children, guys, this time. This is one of my little sub-genres of justice concerning children and adults, because a lot of times, you know, people they have their preferences. All the time, most of the times, about certain things. You're biased, in other words. So in a case like this, you're going to be biased towards the younger, not considering that they're both children. So you're going to just be biased in all situations with the younger. In the case of two children, you're going to be biased towards the younger because you're already in the mindset of older and younger anyway when it comes to any type of sexual interactions. You're going to want to protect the younger in all situations where there's something questionable sexually. You're always going to go to the protection of the younger. And see, in the case of children, you can't do that, because they're both children. So if it was an adult with both of them, they both would be children. They both will be legally children. So you can't be like, well, no, they're both children. They're both children. You're trying to hold them to an extreme mature mentality, which most average children don't even have. You're almost trying to hold them to be like some whiz kids, mature kid kind of situation. And most kids are not whiz kids. They're not whiz kids and nothing. Every once in a while you'll see a whiz kid, but you're holding, when you look at two children and you look at the older, you're holding them to whiz kid maturity. That's what you're doing. And that doesn't make them retarded because they don't have it. That doesn't make them disabled mentally because they don't have it. Children, quite frankly, just make childish decisions. It isn't a matter of IQ or the development of the brain. People that have children know this. You that have children should know this. Your children can be smart, very competent, very intelligent, and still make childish decisions. They could be 17. They could be 17 and they could be almost 17 and a half. They could be almost there, and they still are going to make childish decisions. This is why man has, and I agree with this, put 18 as the age of adult, because with most of us, with the average of us, a light bulb goes off at that age. It's something that goes off not at 17, not at 16, not at 15, not at 14, not at 13 or 12. Something goes off at 18 in the mind. Everyone agrees with this. That's one thing we all agree on. You notice that? And I'm going to do a video on that. We all agree on the age of adult. You are an adult at 18. I don't care where you go. Russia, all of it. And this is, I think, the way God designed humans. That this light bulb goes off, and so this makes us all conclude that this is the adult age. Because what made people conclude it? Why isn't 20 years old the age of an adult? Why isn't 21 the age of an adult? Why isn't 17 the age of an adult? Because we all, I think it's even scientifically proven probably. Scientists and doctors probably concluded that at this point, this is when the human shifts into adulthood. And I'll check into it and see if that's the case. But we all can agree that we all agree on 18 being the age of an adult. We all agree on that. We all agree, and all of us on the average that are competent, we can mark at 18 a light bulb going off. That's how I describe it. Just some awareness, some opening it's like you wake up to the world at that age. That's the best way I can describe it. It happened for me because I left home. Even though I went to another family member, I left home from my mother's house when I was 18. I left home when I was 18. I got out the house. I may have went back to the house many times, but I should be given credit for leaving at 18. I literally left my mother's house at 18. It didn't all work out for other reasons where I went because there was a lot of politics around the house where I went, so I couldn't. So a lot of conflict happened about, where I went because family members didn't really want anyone there. But the bottom line is something went off in my mind and I decided I wanted to leave home at 18. So so that's just another example, So that's why I don't hold kids responsible for what they do under 18 because that light bulb hasn't went off. You have not become aware of the world and aware of things in the world until you're 18. So I don't look at children that do something with other children because you obviously, literally you are a kid. Literally, that's the first thing first. Second of all, as adults, we know that this is the age, 18 is the age where the light bulb goes off, where the awareness of the world happens. So I can't hold somebody that hasn't had that experience, the light bulb experience, the awareness of the world experience. I can't hold them to what they did. Now, when someone is 18 with someone that's under 18, now that's a different situation.